Welcome to Punished for Protecting Live with your host, Francesca Amato-Banfield.
Hey, welcome to Punished for Protecting live news broadcast today. We're going to be giving you a full update on the the Kenworthy family story. We have special guest today, Advocate Jamie Johnson, and then we have also the caretaker of 4 years, Samantha Brown. Before we get started today, we'd like to show you a clip of that day, Memorial Day, where we had a standoff in New Jersey, and what we feel as advocates is the most important to our nation's crisis that's happening with families in our nation, and what we feel is important to our civil liberties. But first, we're going to go to that clip.
You have no legal authority.
Yes, I have legal guardianship. Not on me, no. The children are safe with me. They don't want to be with anyone else.
Well,
and you can ask the police officers, they're safe here. They've walked around the house multiple times already. They are safe here.
And so in the interest of the kids, they're going to make a determination whether the kids are going to go with them to be checked for safety.
You're fine. You can see them. They're healthy children that are fine.
I'm telling you right now, okay? Don't interfere. Let them do their job.
I've done all kinds of things. I've been a nanny since I was 11. Caretaker, etc. Yeah, they're homeschooled. I hate them with homeschooled.
Sam, they want to take us away.
No, you can't. You can't. Why? Do you have paperwork saying that you're allowed to take the children? Where? Signed by an actual judge?
it doesn't have to be signed.
Here.
That doesn't make any
It'll
sense.
get solidified and signed on. It'll get solidified and signed on Wednesday when we have court.
It's not Wednesday. Then you can come and get them after court.
You can find that I served this on you. This gives us custody.
Hold on, wait.
No, I'm not giving you custody to them. No.
You can refuse to sign. But I'm still going to give you the paper to give you the instructions on where to go. Okay, and when and where everything is on the
It's like, where is your heart? These kids have been touched by state workers. Like, their grandmother is abusive, and she's the one that is doing this, the one that wants custody of them for a paycheck.
And we can go to court. Sweetie, I need you to
No, I'm not leaving it. Here.
They said they have a paperwork that they want me to sign over custody. I'm not signing shit. They're trying to take the kids. The children are right here. The cops said that the division wasn't coming back, but they stayed in the house. I knew they were fucking coming back.
You know, they can't. You guys do know that they can't just go get a warrant after the fact.
They said they don't even have it officially signed, that they'll get it signed on Wednesday in court, but they have to take the kids now because Lee's not here and I don't have my legal guardianship paperwork.
How is this not criminal? You cannot come onto a man's property without a
So you
warrant.
want to make sure you
What are you talking about?
The
It
laws
doesn't
in
have
New Jersey,
custody.
We need
you are.
Yes, you're depriving us of our rights under the color of law and these children's rights.
Exactly. Now, Samantha, the point to all this being that the laws don't matter in different in South Dakota or New Jersey. The Fourth Amendment's still the Fourth Amendment.
Be going somewhere different, not the same person.
All right, ready?
No, you are not taking them.
Get out, please. Get out.
Please get out, please. These are the people that mommy told you about. They're not your friends. Please.
Samantha, they will take these children by force because they're criminals. They are not your friends, children. Do not think for a moment that they are your friends. Do not think for a moment that they are good
You
people.
don't have permission to go in the house. You don't have a warrant. Where are you going? You guys don't have a warrant to get out of the house.
Help us to find some shoes at
You're
least for
not
the
taking
kids.
them, please.
I really
They are safe here with me. Why? I am 25 years old. I am very capable of taking care of children. I've been a nanny since I was 11. You are not taking them. You're not. They're safe with me.
Do they have shoes? I need you to think about what's in their best interest right now.
This is their best interest. You're thinking about the best interest of your paycheck and getting paid. What, it's Memorial Day? Are you making overtime today?
Yes, she is. She is definitely making overtime pay today.
Help me to get some shoes for you.
If they put their hands on you children, you fight back.
No, don't touch my pillow. Okay. Don't touch anything. Please, don't touch this pillow.
Hey, ask the children where they would like to be right
Yes,
now.
ask us. Come on. So help me. I see. Are these your shoes?
The paper's not signed. You can't take it.
So we can actually. There's part on here that says that we're unable to serve the paperwork.
Children want to
Where
be.
do you guys want to be? See ya, Kai.
We want to be here.
Where do you want to be?
Don't want to go anywhere else.
So, wow. Alarming to say the least. Now, if anybody was watching back on Memorial Day, there were snipers out on the lawn. There was absolutely no warrant. And there's a preceding history. Lee Kenworthy basically feels, and this is alleged, that his wife was murdered by the police in New Jersey. And he has 2 lawsuits that are pending at this time. The last time he was in New Jersey, there was chaos as far as the situation with his wife. And we're going to show you an interview that will precede all of this so you guys can see what has led to this day and why Lee Kenworthy was anxious, why he was upset, why he was afraid to let them in. As advocates, we know what's happening in family court, CPS, foster care, and forced adoption, and why they're coming to our property without warrants and taking children. I titled this today, 2 Wrongs Don't Make a Right, because there is speculation, a lot of speculation. There is accusations. There are people who are questioning if Mr. Kenworthy does meth, does other types of drugs. This is not something that I can personally prove, but we're going to put this all out there today because we would like to sum this up, and we'd like to bring this to you in a very honest and fair news report today. But we're going to roll the original interview that I did with Lee several months ago here now, so that you can get a basis as to why he was so afraid to open that door, despite the fact that there was no warrant. Welcome to Punish for Protecting. I'm here today with my guest. This is a second interview with Sia Kenworthy. Did I say it right? Okay. And we're going to continue a little bit off from where we were last time when I interviewed your dad and yourself because I had some questions. The first question I had was on July 1st in 2016. Do you recall the time when the retired Deputy Chief of Police, Robert Martin, and I think you guys know him as Bobby, so you know him. He also at the time was the homeowner and your landlord in a duplex house, meaning top and bottom, and you guys live on the bottom floor. So he comes in and he's threatening your dad, according to your dad, with his gun.
He's actually threatening him outside of the front door.
Okay, he's outside in the front of the front door. So did you see his gun at that point, or?
Yes.
You did. So now, where are you and your brother and your mom at this point?
My mom was in her room, but she kept coming out to the living room to keep taking us away because she didn't want us to see him threatening my dad.
Okay, and so this man is now, he's a retired Deputy Chief of Police.
Yes.
Okay, and he's threatening your dad as a homeowner with his gun, which is mind-blowing to me. So you live in a residential neighborhood? Just like
I don't know
what that means. Just a neighborhood where there's like no businesses or stores around, more like houses, and
yeah.
it's a fairly quiet neighborhood, or
Yeah.
I mean, are guns something that is normal in your neighborhood, or, okay? So here's this man threatening your dad with a gun. Did you hear anything else? Like, did you hear yelling, or?
Not too much because I couldn't really hear through the window.
Yeah, and your mom's like trying to protect you from
Yeah.
this. How is that making you feel?
Really afraid. I didn't know if he was going to use his gun at all, and I didn't want anything to happen to my dad.
Yeah, I mean, of course not. Now, this is something that sadly, at this time, you're 9, right?
Yeah.
When this is occurring. So you guys are kind of used to stuff like this due to your mom and dad being whistleblowers, but still, it's not comfortable for a 9-year-old kid, right? I mean, it wouldn't be comfortable for me, so I can't imagine your dad and your mom. So now we go a couple days later, like 7 days later here on July 8th, and looks like it was around 10 o'clock in the morning. Were you awake? Do you remember this day with the banging? Or
Yes.
you do?
I was awake,
You were awake.
but the woman upstairs, she was the one that got me out of bed.
Because she's banging now. She's
Yeah.
banging on your front door or
She's
banging on the wall?
the front, the front door,
Okay.
and she's like on the phone with the cops.
Okay, so she's banging and you hear this when you were just like, what, sitting in your room or something, or?
Yeah, I was sitting in my brother's room watching TV.
Okay, so did you come out when you heard this banging, or?
Yes.
And what was her beef? What was her deal? Why was she slamming on her door, banging on your door like this?
I don't know.
Is she friendly with the retired deputy chief of police, Bobby?
Yeah.
She's friendly with him? So she shows up at your house, she's banging at 10 o'clock in the morning, you're startled,
Yeah.
and where's your little brother at this point?
My little brother is asleep.
He's sleeping.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and then do you know why she's there? Or do you have any idea, or what she's doing? Because it
No.
says something about the police shows up now.
Yes, like a few minutes later, the police shows up,
Okay.
and they think that my mom and dad were fighting, and me and my mom kept telling them, no, they weren't fighting.
Okay, so your mom is where now at this point? When the police come, she goes out,
Yes.
and your dad comes out, or
Yeah.
they're all in their rooms, everybody's in their rooms, they come out, except your brother?
Yeah, there's like a hallway, and we were like all in the hallway, and we kept telling them that nothing was going on.
Nobody was fighting.
Yeah, and then what
So
happened?
did they leave because the whole family's saying nobody's fighting? Was there some
No.
yelling and screaming going on, and that she would call the police and bang on the door? No.
No, nothing.
I mean, you would have known, you were in the house, 10
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning, it wasn't 6 a.m. No yelling, no screaming.
No.
They come, the police show up, so they must have left, right? And
No.
no, they didn't leave. What did they do?
They arrested my dad.
For what?
They-
Was your mother beaten up?
No.
Was there marks on her?
No.
Was she crying?
No.
Were you crying?
No.
Did they just arrested your dad and took him off?
Yeah.
I'm floored. And how did that make you feel as a 9-year-old kid?
I was worried if my dad wasn't gonna come back, but like an hour later, my mom got him out.
She did get him out. And again, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Wow. So is there anything else that maybe you need to tell the viewing audience that you've been through so much?
There was this one time in Belgium.
In Belgium?
Yeah, Belgium. In a public school. I was taken out from class, and I was put in a small room. There was a table, then there was a woman in front of me and a woman back of me. And they were both division workers.
Division workers? Okay. So they brought you out of class. This is public school?
They didn't bring me out of class.
Nope.
The teacher got a call from the principal, and he told me to go downstairs.
Wow. So you must have had an attorney present because you're not legally allowed to have anybody come talk to you without an attorney present. No. And you were 9 years old? Do you remember approximately when that was, or?
I don't exactly know what day it was.
Okay.
But what happened was they kept asking me questions of like where were we at the time, and like
Time of?
the time of after my mom died.
Okay.
Like that's
So the time of your mother's death, actually?
No,
After your mother's death. You're asking.
And they kept asking me like where we are, where we're living, and like what we're gonna do, and I didn't tell them.
And you didn't tell them anything because you're used to being constantly nagged?
Yeah, but it was still scary.
it was scary for you. And I mean, I can't imagine being 9 years old, being taken out of class, and being sent to a room with two, did you ever meet these people before?
No.
Two complete strangers. Were they women or men?
Women.
Two women. Did you feel comfortable with them?
No.
Did you feel, I mean, how did you feel?
I felt afraid and I felt uncomfortable. It was like a small room, so it was
Even more confining. And now this is after your mom's death, so you're already dealing with all of this, and you're grieving, and now you've got these two strangers taking you out of class, which the school should be really held responsible for allowing you to go in to a room with two strangers, I don't care who they are, without an attorney present, because that's your legal right. Are you aware of that, or figured with all what your parents have taught you? And now you're here, and you're in this confined little small setting with two strangers questioning you. Where were they standing? Like, where were they in front of you? Did they bow down to your level? One was behind you?
Yeah. There was one sitting down in the chair right there, and one behind me. And then
Behind you?
Sitting right there.
Was that person behind you sitting or standing?
Standing.
Wow, yeah, that's a little intimidating.
And,
so you couldn't make eye contact with the one that was behind you?
No.
They're standing behind you?
And, in Catholic school, what they would do is the principal would go in the room with you while a division worker comes. But in public school, you would just go in there with two strangers or one. How many?
Yeah, I would not allow it. So none of your teachers, no familiar faces in this room. Yeah. And of course now you're very scared and you're not knowing what's about to happen. How long did this interrogation process take?
I say about 15, 20 minutes.
It's a pretty long time. In 2 seconds, I think I would not be very happy as a parent to know this. I know that, and I'm very sorry for the death of your mom, and all that you guys have been through as kids. It's nothing that any child should ever go through for 1 second. But when your mom passed away, it was actually August 17th, 17, the year 17, right?
Yeah,
No,
the year 16.
16. Okay, I'm sorry. So you got July 1st, 16, you got this threatening homeowner, landlord, deputy chief of police who's retired with his gun threatening your dad. Okay. Then you've got on July 8th, not 18, 16, you've got the police pounding, you got this mother or woman upstairs pounding on your door and making up false allegations, and the police coming in New Jersey and actually arresting your dad. And then a month later, or actually less than 2 months later, on August 17th, you have your mom, the situation with your mom. Were you there during this?
No.
You were not there, thank God. But then you got the news.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that, or you do.
That night, I was up for a little bit because I was worried if they were going to come back or not. And what happened was, like, around, I say about 2-ish to becoming 3 in the morning, I heard my grandma and grandpa like in the room right beside, and I was in this room. And what happened was I heard on the phone that he couldn't breathe.
Who couldn't breathe? Your mom?
My mom, yeah. I didn't know if he was dead or not then. But I was awake till 6 a.m. because I was worried. And I slept for like 2 hours and woke up at 8. And it was like about an hour later they came back.
Yeah.
And I kept asking him where mommy was, and well, after I saw he wasn't there, I kind of knew that he was dead.
So your parents had you staying at your grandma's though?
Yeah.
This happened. And do you recall any threats against your mom, or I guess the way to ask this, because I requested to have you come back to do more of this interview, because there's so many parts to this interview. There's so much to this story, actually, is what I'm saying, that a lot of questions, I think in any thinking, logical mind, keep you sitting here thinking about wanting to ask you and ask more about what you've been through as a kid, what your little brother has been through, and then this death of your mom, with all these threats. Was there anything that, and I know your mom's life could have been saved and wasn't handled properly?
I feel it's different now because I think about my future and like what it's gonna be like without it. Like how my dad's gonna have to spend his life alone. I get married and I leave, and he's gonna be alone by himself.
Yeah, that was a very difficult interview to do, and we ended it shortly after that. And it's very hard because now I've interviewed her and I've talked to her, to Sia, a few times, and I've interviewed Lee a few times. And this is something that, as advocates, we have a very tough position in making decisions on who to advocate for. There are, like I said, there are different allegations going on right now. There's different, just people thinking different things, and certain things that we're trying to investigate right now to find out what is and what isn't true. However, this is firsthand from at the time, a 10-year-old little girl. We're going to show you another piece from the standoff right now and how this has affected her life. And again, in hopes that as the viewing audience sees this and has watched this and has followed this story, you see how this affects everyone. Punished for Protecting, we are very strong against domestic violence, drug use, drug addiction, drug dealing, and child abuse. We're very strong against that. However, I have to say, we have a nation in crisis, a nation that's been in crisis, and we can't keep turning a blind eye to what the judicial system is doing to our families and children. Again, we must reiterate that there was no warrant and snipers appeared on that property. And it is time that we wake up as a nation, because that could be anyone. False allegations are the bread and butter of this industry. And we're going to go ahead right now and we're going to show you a little more of the standoff and how this affected Sia.
How's everyone feel to be witnessing this? You know what I'm saying? To legitimately see online that there is a story. Hold on. Pull over here real quick. Pull over right over here. Everyone, Google "I was an American." ABC News has not been reporting a story.
Picture!
I know, you too. I love you guys. Go ahead, go. I was an American. Brother. Wife murdered in Lyndhurst, dog. My wife was murdered in Lyndhurst, New Jersey, brother. I know, thank you. I appreciate that. Google it. When you get a chance to, Google it. Okay? You have a good night, brother. Google, all one word, "I was an American." Lyndhurst, New Jersey, my wife was murdered by the police. Straight up, for real. No doubt, brother.
Okay, that's actually, that piece right there is actually Lee in New York City, New Year's Eve, doing Occupy the Media. That's something that aired for a 24-hour period, telling his story. Okay, actually, that was a clip the weekend before it happened, that particular one. Okay, that's not the Occupy the Media then, I'm sorry. I thought it was a part of Occupy the Media. But there's a clip that we want to show, which we will get to the audience today, where it's Sia's reaction while snipers are on the property. And that's what I want to talk about today. Okay, I want to talk about the lack of due process, which is something that affects every single American. It affects us in a global way. But here in the United States, this has been affecting us. I work with countless parents that do not have any kind of bad background, that do not do drugs, that do not do things that would warrant their children being taken from them. And this is my concern, is that these children are put through literal hell. And we as Americans are not getting due process. There was no warrant on that property. There was no warrant. And snipers were brought out onto that property. And they were made very visual. And that's one of the main concerns and should be a concern to anyone. Again, we as advocates have a very tough job of deciding who to advocate and not advocate for. And we do, I believe, a very good job of navigating through almost like a surgeon, trying to find out what the pieces are of violations that are occurring to the victims, because everybody is a victim in this at this time. And it is a word that I despise, because we were not put here to be victims to a system and not be able to live our lives and grow and flourish. This little girl's life is forever changed. And this man, let's say that he is 100% mentally ill. Let's say that he's a meth addict. Let's say that these things are true. This is still not due process. This is not the way our laws are supposed to work. And there should have never been snipers out on the property. He was already a man that was frightened of what has happened previously, as you have heard. He was also placed in Rikers Island. We have alarms going off. He was also, he tells you very candidly, repeatedly raped. If that doesn't cause some kind of mental anguish or potential drug use, I don't know what does. Not everybody is built as strong as others after going through certain things. And I think that we should all be vitally concerned, because this does in fact affect everyone. And we are going to show that clip with Sia, and then we're going to take a quick intermission commercial break. I also want to just lay a quick stage here for Don Rufty's executive order, because we have, as a nation, need you guys to sign this executive order, read it thoroughly. Don Rufty is going to talk about it at length here today in a clip that he did for us. And we need you guys signing it, because the judicial corruption is off the charts, as we know. 5 decades of judicial corruption that is literally destroying the health and safety of our families in America. So right now we're going to show this clip of how this is affecting Sia. And she is currently 10 years old.
Been scattered, and they moved the CPS car, and
I'm going to try to do everything I can to get that CPS car out of there.
Okay.
I cannot make any promises.
okay. Oh no. They already moved that out and back. So realistically, like what Sam is bringing to me right now is she's seeing cops going through the backwoods right now with sniper rifles. If we're dealing with it properly, and what instigated this, the 2 officers, when I told them I know my laws and I want CPS away from my house, I'm not letting them in. My daughter was sexually assaulted by them. I'm suing the housing authority. Those were the first words said. So if you want to blame this escalation on me, it wasn't. It was these officers in there to stand down and drive the fuck away.
Figures. I just want to let you know, I just had my partner. We're working in cooperation with Manchester.
Thank you.
We just talked to their dispatcher.
Thank you.
We're going to relay to their officers on scene to move that CPS car out of there.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So like I said, I cannot make any promises, but I will do my best.
No, dude. All I see what I told them before was I told them, look, if my children, if what I'm saying to you, and I have been saying this to you for 4 years now, and I called Manchester Police also before I left in August of the 1st year anniversary. And I told them on the 1st year anniversary, I'd like to file charges with Internal Affairs on one of your officers who harassed my family, and they hung up on me over 15 times. I have those recordings too. So do you understand where this is? Yes?
I understand 100%.
Exactly.
We're on the same page here.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Because seriously, dude, I'm calming down more and more. But I just don't want fucking snipers circling around my fucking house, bro. You know, like, well, yes, no, I'm calm, but at the same time, at what point do I get, you know what I'm saying, crazy.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Your daughter, she seems like a fine young lady.
Oh, dude, she's awesome, bro. She's just like mom, and she's just like me. She's right here. She's in the room. Dude, we have our iguana right here too. Our iguana.
Yeah, we were talking about her. I asked her what pet she had. She said that the blue nose pit bull and iguana. I said, I like the blue nose pit, but I think I'd be scared by the iguana.
Dude,
I don't know if you find me touching the iguana.
Dude, honestly, it's so interesting. Like once they bond with you, it's like a little dog that has its personality that gets bitchy. They're not meat eaters per se, so they have like tiny little teeth. So they're more they're more plants, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. I see. I was gonna say herbivores, but I wouldn't say that was a proper bird, so I stopped. Yeah. exactly. That's what I was saying. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. He is a police officer.
So what's going on like right now? Where are we at with this?
I'm in the front window. Sam's checking the back windows, and the last time she was checking the back windows, she saw snipers moving through the yard. What happened? Okay, so they're still chilling in the back with sniper rifles. No. Still with Sam. Sam. Where are they?
There's one by this tree. He has an assault rifle. There's two right here. There's a sniper.
Right before we were about to take a trip, a month before we fled the state. So those were broken, and then the house kicked into. But I'm a lying piece of shit. I'm crazy.
I don't think you're a liar at all.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. You know how many people have called me a fucking liar and tried to lie about me? To defame me?
Bro, that's people who are unhappy with themselves. Who don't know how to make themselves feel good.
That's true. That's definitely true. And it's also people like David Blaine.
I deal with that all the time.
Basically, you know what I'm saying? Like, here's the thing that I'm, like, so fucked in the head with. Is, like, what would have been so hard for David Blaine just to do a tweet? I'm not trying to say, everyone is a criminal fucking mastermind and everyone's picking on me and, oh, help me. No, dude. You know what I did for the fucking first year? I don't have my license because I didn't get it back because of fines. And me and Shay, when we had $200,000 easily swim through our hands, we never paid that. Because of the police brutality and hostility and threats and trying to get me to work with them in every fucking county. I no longer wanted to do that. I had already done that for 4 fucking years, the first 4 years of my daughter's life, and I gave another fucking year when my son was a year, 2, and then you pulled him away from me. And you falsified that charge. That's also online, dude. No. It's also online. The charge that took my children away from me. What? They're gone? The big guns are gone?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm doing everything I can here to make this work.
No, dude, honestly, Chris, I was not kidding. Like, do you have children, bro?
I do not yet.
Dude, you're gonna make a great father, bro.
I appreciate that, Lee. Thank you.
You really are, dude. Like, you are a good-hearted person who is listening.
You are too, man, and that's why
I appreciate that, and also I do.
Your daughter, I can tell that you're a good father just based on things she tells me.
Dude, thank you, bro. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? I want this to be stated too, since we are live and this shit is going out. I don't hate Italians. I don't hate anybody, dude. I'm throwing shit right now because of who did and said certain things, and I do know who exactly did make their references, like Antonino Locascia, that they were mafia. Like,
I have those names written down from the beginning of our talk.
Exactly. Francine Giambono. She was the one that we were in the contract with in 2006-07 that did that false charge. The one before Judge Denise that we said earlier was definitely not a criminal charge.
That was your lawyer legal contract?
No, that Francine Giambono was the supposed victim, the mafia one who started, and her cousin's name was Tommy Coppola. He just actually got out of jail for a federal charge, and a Hackensack cop started calling us. And I'm not even fucking joking with you, dude. When we go through the phone logs, because I have them, Shay made sure. Shay went to NYU Law with a double major, dude. Shay made sure that when that happened, she ordered phone logs and she put them in a box.
That's Francine.
So that's part of the standoff while he's talking to 911, believing that the 911 operator is on his side. They were preparing to get in the door, basically, and continue this. So right now we're going to go to a quick commercial break. Before we do, I just want to mention again that we're going to have Don Ruffy directly after the commercial talk to you guys about why it is felony charges against these judges in America that are making decisions. In this particular case, there was no judge making any kind of a decision, but making these decisions that are wreaking havoc on families and children and tearing families apart and doing extensive damage to children in our nation, which I personally believe is very much linked to the heroin and meth crisis that we have in our country, children being torn apart from families and no remedy. So please pay attention to this proposed executive order that Don Ruffy has drawn up that we are trying to get as many signatures for as possible. And we're going to go to commercial right now. Thank you. And now we're going to take it to Don Ruffy and the executive order, requesting that everyone that's watching please sign the executive order to not just to raise public awareness, but to be able to hold our judicial system and anybody in law enforcement or any CPS workers that are causing this destruction to families accountable for their actions. And then I'm going to be interviewing both Jamie Johnson and Samantha Brown. One moment, please. We're going to go to a quick break here. This is the executive order. And I'm going to have a clip played by Don Ruffy in a second. But this is the executive order that Don Ruffy made. And this talks about 242. It talks about the Social Security Act. It talks about the damaging effects of the decisions that have been made by the judiciary throughout the past 5 decades, and it discusses why felony charges are what is applicable to the damages that they've caused families worldwide or nationwide, and why it is important that we all sign this. This is generally on my Facebook page every day, and we do ask that you guys please sign it. It is extremely important that you sign this and that you share this. We do plan to present it, and Don Ruffy is going to speak about this shortly in the next clip. And you can find that executive order directly on my Facebook page at any time, where you can sign it and share it.
Asked to speak about. Hi, I'm Don Rufty. I have been asked to speak about the proposed executive order, which I was asked to write for presentation to President Trump. I'm going to read it. Proposed executive order, which will in effect be an emancipation proclamation for the 21st century. Executive order to restore integrity to state courts. In response to thousands of meritorious complaints that I have received from the American people from all over the nation since taking office as your president, I am issuing this very belated executive order. For decades, numerous lower court judges have issued court orders that violate the rights of Americans. Each such illicit court order is a clear-cut felony committed by the judge pursuant to U.S. Code Title 18, Section 242. Although the law is crystal clear and easily understood, the aforementioned violations have continued unabated. The results of these crimes against the people have been horrendous. These abominations have been especially prevalent in the family courts. The social carnage of which I spoke in my inaugural address has destroyed the lives of millions of American citizens. Millions of American children have been wrongfully taken under color of law from fit parents. The parents have become financially destitute in their futile efforts to rescue their children from the foster care industry. Many have become homeless, and many have committed suicide. Not only have the mothers and fathers committed suicide, many of the children who have been physically, sexually, and chemically abused in foster care have also committed suicide. This very dark chapter in American history is going to come to an end, so help me God. The numerous violations of the rights of the people have enabled the family court racket to operate for decades. Motivation for this ongoing criminal enterprise has been monetary. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been taken from the Social Security Trust Fund to finance this criminality. Draining the Social Security Trust Fund, in effect, is stealing the retirement of the younger generation of Americans. I am hereby ordering vigorous enforcement of federal criminal complaints submitted to federal magistrate judges in conjunction with Rules 3 and 4 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, pursuant to U.S. Code Title 18, Section 242. The Supremacy Clause for the Constitution of the United States shall nullify any attempt to circumvent, abrogate, or violate the constitutionally protected rights of the American people. Any noncompliance with this order will be ample grounds for the removal of any judge who is guilty of obstruction of justice, dereliction of duty, malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance. Any such offender will also be indicted and prosecuted. Signed, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. If you receive this by email, there's a place below that for you to sign if you choose to endorse the proposed executive order. I hope you will. And if you do, feel free to post it and share it widely. All America has a stake in this. Thank you.
Okay, so we appreciate Don doing that for us. That actually explains the proposal to the executive order, something that we have to get done. We have to get that done. That's something that is utterly important for our nation's health and welfare. And that's a bottom line right there. And I do encourage everyone to please research that and to understand that if you really want this over, if you really want this abuse of families to end, that's what we need. We need the executive order signed so that judicial corruption will come to a complete and utter halt. We need it over. I'm going to right now interview my two guests, Jamie Johnson and Samantha Brown. I'm actually going to ask you, they're both actually driving right now, both ladies. And Sam, if I can actually go to you first. You have been a caretaker for the children for how long? We need her volume up. Sound. Okay, you can hear me. There you go. That's okay. We've got you now. So for how long have you been a caretaker for the children?
A cumulative 4 years.
4 years. And have you seen mood swings with Lee or anything? Because you knew his wife previously.
Yeah. Nothing abnormal from an emotional man who wishes to just grieve. I mean, we've been working hard and nothing abnormal at all. He's typical Lee, typical good father, there for his kids, and missing his wife.
Now, there's been some allegations that he's on meth. Have you seen anything like that?
Hell no. Pardon my French, but no. No, and I would never even allow that in the house we share. You know what I mean? Around the kids, I'm with him 24/7. So no, this Turtle Boy character, anybody else with any accusations, please don't. Just because somebody stays up all night doesn't mean that they're on drugs. I stay up all night and I'm not doing any drugs. It's called insomnia. It's called PTSD.
Okay. And have you seen a deterioration in Sia at all regarding, having to go through this emotional roller coaster because of, what's happening with the judicial process and with law enforcement and CPS?
I mean, there's trauma in all of us. In me, Sia, and Kai, and Lee. We've all been through this, and we all really miss someone who was stolen from us. We miss Shay. And her and Lee, they used to make at least $100,000 a month, and now he doesn't have that. It's difficult. It's tough out there, and the struggle is definitely something that is prominent in everyone's life. So we're all struggling and trying to keep our spirits up and keep moving forward and always hoping for the best. But like you said, the judicial system has not been helping this family.
Well, they've been a good hindrance, I'll tell you that. Do you feel that Shay, you knew her prior to her death. Do you feel that she was someone who was very victimized by the system or by possibly Lee's mom?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of racial politics in it, and it's just disgusting. Your son gets married to a Spanish woman and has children, and you should love the mom as much as the children, and any sense, it's claimed to be family. You know what I mean?
And so you started out receiving like a paycheck from the family, but then as time went on, you decided to stay on as a volunteer because you believed in them.
Because they explained to me their plight and welcomed me into their home, and I grew to love those kids just like they were my own, and especially Shay and Lee, like they've been family to me, and I love them for that.
Now, one of the reports state that I guess it's that Turtle Boy, but there's other things being said, state that they lived in some type of like impoverished housing. Is that even close to the truth?
You're cutting. I didn't cut out.
That one of the reports stated that Lee and the children lived in some sort of impoverished housing. I guess like Section 8 or something. Is that even close to the truth? I don't know if she could hear me.
It was Section 8 Housing Authority approved. I think those documents are on the I Was an American Instagram.
but they were not paying Section 8 prices. They were paying $2,200. So if you go to the I Was American Instagram or the I Was American Facebook, those pictures are on there, and it shows their lease agreement, how much they were paying, and then it also shows that the house was approved Section 8.
Okay.
But it was not an impoverished home. It was a home where they never changed the carpets for, I don't know the exact number, but it was over 10 years. And when you're a Section 8 approved home, you have to be inspected yearly. But the house smelled like urine. You can see those pictures on the iwasamerican.com, the pictures of the carpets in the Lyndhurst home.
Okay, well, thank you, Sam. And I'm going to ask Jamie Johnson some questions too, if you can hear me. I know you're both traveling. You're welcome. Jamie, so you decided to get in your car and drive over 12 hours, and right now your own children, there's been some allegations regarding you too that, well, first of all, there's been allegations because Lee did a video, unbeknownst to me, I found out later. He was upset with me because I couldn't talk to him one night, and he decided to get on some Australian girl's thing and kind of go off on me, in which he retracted. And number one, who has Lee, with the executive nurse at the hospital when we went down, requested to advocate for him repeatedly?
Me and you. But that's been attacked too. I'm supposedly, he yelled at me on the live as well too. But
okay.
Actually, he gets worked up and then he apologizes.
Right. And I think
tugging on me when I went to see him too. So everything was fine with Lee, with me, you, and Sam being there. There was no issues. None at all.
Correct. And so now you decided to drive literally 12 hours, and you're going to have to head back another 12 hours. And basically, we've been doing what we can to get you guys in hotels and such because of the situation that occurred, and that's continuing. As much as we tried to call, they have not allowed anybody to talk to him, although it's his request. As an advocate, Jamie, let's think of Charles Manson, one of the most vile murderers on the planet. Was he allowed to have visitors? To your knowledge. And yet Lee Kenworthy, yes. Lee Kenworthy can't have visitors and can't speak to us on the phone, even though it's his request.
No, at Barnabas, he was not able. Barnabas behavioral.
Yep, Malmouth, and then Barnabas, and now kind of stinks that their signal is not doing good because they're driving. Yeah, they're driving. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break until we can get them clear, and I can continue to interview Jamie. And what we're going to do is I'd like to talk about what's an event that's coming up in September 7th through the 11th. It's called the For the Children event. And we're just going to show you a quick snip here. But that's something that I'd like everybody to please go on the website for the children USA.com. It's for the children USA.com. Please register. Because we need to step up, guys. We need to help our nation's children. Our very lives and their very lives depend on it. And this is going to be an amazing event. There is going to be an 8-hour session before Congress with a lot of great speakers presenting to Congress all these issues that we are clearly facing every day that I'm quite upset about. I know Jamie's upset about, and countless other advocates across our nation that have been fighting for years for our rights. Again, why this case, Fran? Why are you interested in this case? Why when somebody attacked you? Why when they talked bad about you? Why when there's accusations of meth use? Why when this and this and that and the other? Why? Because this affects all of us. This affects all of us. Due process is a very serious thing in our nation. Our Constitution is a very serious piece of paper, and it is a very meaningful piece of paper that has been violated and attacked. And we need to have Americans knowing what is happening in our country. It just seems like such a good thing. It's like a humanitarian thing that we just foster children, and we get them out of these bad homes. And some homes are bad. Some parents are not good for children. But the more we do this work, we begin to realize that we have a better way to handle when there are real issues. There's a better way than snipers on your property or no due process or no warrant. If you don't think that that's serious, then you need to get your head out of the sand, because that is very serious. That is extremely serious. That is Hitler all over again, just infiltrated in a very different way, in a way that's supposed to look professional and businesslike. But I want to tell everybody to please go to the website for thechildrenusa.com, forthechildrenusa.com, and please register, and please join those that are putting this together, Robert Slavin, Kimberly Johnson, and many others, and join us. And Punish for Protecting supports it 100%. And please join us. Okay, I'm going to try to get back with Jamie now and interview her. And then I would like to give you guys a little bit of hope at the end. We have Dwight Mitchell, and Dwight is doing great work. He has over 1,000 victims/parents that are going full force ahead suing CPS in Minnesota. It is something that we would like to set a precedence through every state. And we're going to show a quick news clip on that at the end of this interview. But back to Jamie. Jamie, let's see if we can hear you any better. Do you have any, how's your signal doing? There is an update with Lee, and I would like to get that out today before we wrap up today. But the girls are driving, and it doesn't seem like we're going to get that out. There's been some kind of a rumor that I did talk to Jamie earlier today, that they're quote unquote letting him out, but this has not yet happened. This has not yet happened. And unfortunately, they do not have good signal, and I'm not able to, well, maybe nope, she's been actually literally kicked off. So we're going to go to a clip now. This is a news clip held in the state of Minnesota, which is a very bad state. We have bad states all over the place. We have West Virginia, Minnesota, California, New York, horrific rogue judges, Alabama. I mean, it's just barbaric. And these are our families, and we must put an end to this abuse to families. And I do ask that everybody that's seen this to please do your research and learn that this is not something we can any longer tolerate, and we must band together, and we must sign this executive order. There are many other solutions and options that are happening and occurring, and a lot of people that are doing a lot of great work right now to end this vile abuse to families, court bullying, just absolute horror to children and families. And I believe, like I said, it's very tied into the drug crisis that we have in this country. And also, like Don speaks of, the suicide rate between parents and children. But we're going to turn to this last news clip here with Dwight Mitchell and the great work that he's doing. And I hope that this gives you some hope today.
A group of parents is asking a federal court to immediately shut down Child Protective Services. The group is called Stop Child Protective Services from Legally Kidnapping Children, and it says some of CPS's practices are unconstitutional.
Fox 9's Karen Scullin is following this story for us and profiles a case happening right now, in fact. Karen.
Well, the parents in this group say their children were taken away by CPS because of lies and without due process. And they say stuff like that happens all the time.
Xavion Weber has been away from his mother in foster care for just over a week. He's just 10 months old. The ordeal started when Amanda Weber took her son to the hospital with a cough. The doctor deemed him stable, and notes show the diagnosis was in fact a cough. However, the recommendation was that the patient should have stayed. Amanda took him home.
After waiting, I had asked to leave because I wanted to put my kids to bed, and I had my 3-year-old with me, and I asked if there was anything else that needed to be done. They said no, that there was no other testings or anything that needed to be done.
In a couple of days, police were at her door and took Xavion to the doctor.
She checked him out. All his vitals were stable. They already had a foster parent in the room to remove my son before they ever proved before they ever proved that there was actually an emergency situation.
Dwight Mitchell is on a crusade to stop what he calls legal kidnappings. He says his son was unfairly taken for 22 months. Mitchell says these stories may be hard to believe, but they are not uncommon at all.
Our phones have not stopped ringing and our email inboxes are overflowing. Our association had 250 members 30 days ago. We have grown to approximately 1,265 in less than 30 days.
Mitchell believes it all comes down to money. For example,
they can't even start collecting the money until the child is taken out of the home, put into foster care. Then they can start billing a minimum of one social worker a month and one supervisor a month per child.
Amanda says she's now part of Dwight's crusade. Her first mission is to get her son back. Then she's ready to fight for all the others.
And I need to share my story. And if I have to share it 100 times, 1,000 times, I will.
In regards to CPS workers, the Department of Human Services Commissioner Emily Piper, who oversees the department, says to call their work kidnapping is an affront to the extraordinary service they perform for all of us. She also said CPS is working to strengthen the system and address disparities. Now, Amanda Weber was hoping to get her son back this afternoon at a court hearing. However, the judge postponed that hearing because no county attorney could make it this afternoon. The next court hearing for Amanda is set for the 19th.
Okay, well, I disagree with that assessment by CPS, and I absolutely believe that it is kidnapping, and I believe that we as Americans need to put a stop to it, and I've been saying this message repeatedly for over 10 years. We must, and I stand with Dwight and anybody else that stands believing the same way, we must abolish this vile system. Do we need a system in place? We do need something when there are genuine abuses to children. We are seeing right now all over child sex trafficking exposed all over. We're seeing it in Arizona. We just recently seen that 11 employees of Legoland Disney were just found guilty of child pedophilia. This is something that, to me, doesn't get any more perverse or despicable. But when we have a judiciary system that is rendering court orders that are endangering the welfare of our children, when we have a system that thinks it's okay to legally kidnap children from homes based on false allegations, which are indeed the bread and butter of this industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry, there are parents and advocates everywhere, all over the globe, that are standing up and shouting and boldly stating that there is nothing more important than our children and our families. This message is getting louder and louder every day. Please do not be deaf ears. Please unplug your ears. Majority of people that watch these live broadcasts are parents. How would you feel if you were a child that didn't know why you were being taken from your parents? How would you feel if you were a child that instead of having a barbecue in the summer or going swimming with your friends, were being ripped apart and torn apart by your loving biological families? That is not something that any child should ever have to face. And yet, every day in our very own country, paid by our tax dollars, while our Constitution is violated, speak to any attorney in our nation and they will look at you like you have two heads when you mention the Constitution. Because we have judges that are rendering decisions that are violating our rights every single day. I can only beseech you to sign the executive order, to get involved with what we are doing. You can go to my website at punished4beingaparent.com. Stop being punished for being a parent, for being a grandparent, for being a friend, for being a cousin, or for being a child. We have to stop this industry. We have to stop the abuse to families. We do not have a nation that has a foundation anymore when children and families are ripped apart. We are in the 21st century, and there are better ways to solve the issues that occur in families when there are genuine issues. But without due process of law, Without the absolute evidence, people can talk and say whatever they want. But what are you doing about saving families? We cannot continue to use gossip as evidence. We cannot continue to use hearsay as evidence. We have to do the right thing. Our consciences is all we have. And we must not just speak out, but we must take action. Please make sure that you make haste and that you go to every event, you sign every petition, and you fight with every family united to save our most precious cargo, our children, and the future of our generation. Thank you for watching Punish for Protecting News.